Okay, get my stuff going, getting it together here. So can you hear me okay?
It's good, yep.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I got people coming in. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Real Talk, Real Healing. Back on the Cult Free Network with 6 screens. We're going to be simulcasted. And I thank you for having me back here, Rick. I'm going to get my music queued up. We're going to be talking with Olivia Jade, former Jehovah's Witness. She's going to tell us her experience. So we're going to have a little music here, and we're going to take it away in just a moment.
Very good.
Losing my religion because it lost me. Don't want to lose my head because I gotta be sane to maintain my identity. So I keep waving the flag of victory. Trapped in a cult for over 40 years. As an adult with childhood fears. Fear of Armageddon, fear of destruction, Satan the devil, demonic instruction, fear of the elders, fear of leaving, fear of staying in, fear of grieving. The family I will lose, the friends will be lost, shunned if I choose. Such a great cause, must obey my conscience and not preach a lie. Millions now living will never ever die. Like Brother Farr said, and people sacrifice. Now they are dead, they wasted their life. But the Father observed, yes, he took note. They will be rewarded, they still have hope. But what about us, the ones left behind? Who do we trust? Since control of our mind. Yeah. Losing my religion because it lost me. Don't want to lose my head because I gotta be sane to maintain my identity. So I keep waving the flag of victory. Trust in God, trust in His Son, trust the written word, not organization, not the false prophet in bed with the beast, misleading God's people with lies that they teach. 7 wicked men hold up in Brooklyn, taking in donation, calling it crooked, investing hedge funds, misappropriating money. Kingdom Hall thieves is really not funny. Time to move on, get out of her, my people. Babylon the Great, no longer are we sheeple, no longer pushing carts, littering streets. Propaganda for the elites, a publishing company, a pyramid scheme, spinning your wheels, destroying your dreams. But now we know what's up, we see behind the curtain, not fooled by the lies, 7 frauds are working. Yeah. Losing my religion because it lost me. Don't want to lose my head because I gotta be sane to maintain my identity. So I keep waving the flag of victory.
All right. So we're glad to be back. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Cult Free Network and on the 6 screens. Glad you decided to spend your afternoon here with us. My name is Josh Rivera, otherwise known online as David King, and we're going to have a nice program in store for you guys today. We're going to be talking to a good friend of mine that I've gotten pretty acquainted with online. Her name is Olivia Jade. Olivia Jade, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so it's such a pleasure to finally get to talk to you and spend some time with you.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I watch your posts every day, and they're always funny, nice, upbuilding. Sometimes you share some personal things, so we appreciate that. I'm so glad you're in the PTSD group.
Yeah, me too. It's really helped me out a lot. So.
Yeah, definitely. Now, this is something else we do. This has helped me a lot, too. I'm only out of the organization since July, and so I was all over social media. And when I started the PTSD group, it was more like a cry for help. And I understand you left the organization a while ago. I'm not sure how much support was out there, but I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have the support I have now. But I stumbled across the 6 Screens Telenetwork one time, and I called in. You're calling in on my network called the Cult Free Network. But basically, we're all one big family here, and I was compelled to just talk and tell my story, and it gave me the strength and the courage I needed to finally come out and disassociate myself. Mm-hmm. But we understand everybody's at the different place, a different stage in their recovery and their awakening. So I guarantee you'll feel better once you come and spend some time with us. At least that's what everybody usually says once they come and talk and tell their story. But enough about me. We'll go ahead and try to get to know you a little better. So how long have you been involved with the social media and the XJW community?
I think I started back in, I want to say September, October of last year is when I stumbled across the recovery group and things like that.
Okay,
so it's been about 6 months, yeah.
6 months. Okay, so have you been able to make some pretty good connections with people?
Yeah, I have. I've made a really, good group of friends and, that are supportive, and know exactly what I'm going through, and that's what I've mostly needed, the last few years, is somebody that knew what I was going through.
Right, and is there a big support group that you know of in person over there in Kansas, where you're from, that you know about?
No, not that I know of. There's not that many XJWs around in my community. I mean, there's some that I grew up with that are, no longer in the organization. We still keep in touch via Facebook and stuff, but there's none around here.
Okay. So it's been like a lifeline for me. I'm not sure how you feel about it, but it does definitely sound like it's something that came along in the right time.
Yes, definitely at the right time.
Very good, very good. So let's start a little bit with your background. Where are you originally from?
Well, I'm originally from Kansas. My dad was in the military, so we've kind of been all over. And this is where we settled down when he got out of the military. So I grew up here in Kansas, mostly.
Okay, so that's where you're at now in Kansas. If you don't, I don't know how much you want to reveal, because I understand many people haven't fully come away with. But for now, we'll just say you're in Kansas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you said your dad was in the military. So was he ever a witness, or was he like an unbelieving mate? How did that work out?
Well, he was, I guess, an unbelieving mate. He studied for a little bit when I was around 7 or 8 or so, but he never, got baptized or anything like that. But my mom was the one that was a witness. So
she took to it gung ho. Was she studied with him and at the same time? Did they both receive studies at the same time?
No, they didn't study at the same time. My mom got baptized first. She got baptized when I was about 5 or so, when we first moved to the United States, because she's originally from Germany, and that's where she first met, the brothers and sisters there, and they studied. And then we got stationed in Kansas, and she got in contact with the witnesses here, and she started studying and then got baptized here. And then later on down the road, after my dad got out of the military, he started studying with an elder down here.
Oh, okay. So for all intents and purposes, this is happening when you were 5 years old. Do you consider yourself somebody that's born into the organization from birth?
I wouldn't say that, because, I still remember celebrating Christmas and doing things like that. And then everything just kind of suddenly stopped when I was around, 5 or 6.
Okay, so you do have some recollection of how things were before the witnesses came around.
Yes.
Okay, and was just out of curiosity, how was it like growing up in the home? Was there any kind of tension or anything, or did your mom and dad pretty much have a good understanding? Did you ever, how was that? Sometimes there's tension, people are torn. Were you given the option to pretty much figure it out for yourself as far as religion and spirituality goes, or how did that work out?
No, not really. My mom was more of the, because my dad, he was hardly ever there after he got out of the military, and so my mom was the more, I guess, domineering one, and she was very gung-ho about everything, very strict about everything. So, it was mostly my mom that kind of took everything to that, to that level.
So in other words, she really pushed the religion onto you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have did you say you had any siblings, or it's just you, your only child?
No, I have 2 other siblings. So I'm the oldest out of 3. Yeah.
Oh, so you're the oldest out of 3. What, they're sisters or brothers?
I have 2 sisters. 2 younger sisters. Yeah.
And they're all in the organization?
Well, my youngest sister, she's 20. She'll be 22 this year, and she's, still in the organization. And then I have a sister that's 26, and she's an unbaptized publisher, and she lives with me, actually.
Oh, she lives with you. So she's an unbaptized publisher, so she's still a believer. She still believes in it.
We've had, some discussions and stuff. I think the only reason why she's sticking around is because, she can, I guess, have that relationship with my mom and my other sister, and it's because she's afraid of, I guess, losing them. So, yeah.
Okay. So you and her live alone, so you're kind of like in a precarious situation because you've been fully awakened, and then there's somebody that's still, kind of under the control of the organization.
Yeah. And before I was like that too. I was kind of like under control of it because I was thinking about going back. I've tried to go back like 3 or 4 times, and I've written letters and stuff and gone to the meetings and everything, but I always got turned down. And like this last time, I just was done with it. And there's like little things, I guess, up to that point kind of made me realize, like, a religion shouldn't be doing that. It's not how man-made it was, basically. And then I stumbled upon the groups, and then it really opened up my eyes after that. And so then after I went to the groups and started talking to people, I had that conversation with my sister, and I'm trying to slowly, open her eyes about everything too. So.
Right.
But she doesn't want to lose that relationship, with my mom and my sister. So it's kind of hard for her right now to accept things.
Right. Well, that's definitely it's a very precarious situation to be in because you want to help and you want to open somebody's eyes, but there's always that threat of losing that familial connection. So there's an art to opening up. That's why a lot of people, they're awakened. Rick has a term that he uses on the Sixth Screen show called the conscience class, where there's a large population of people within the organization that are conscious and awake about what's going on, but they don't really voice it because of not being able to lose the familial connection. And there's different ways to go about it. Before we get a little bit more into your history, just to enlighten everybody else that might not be in the group, I noticed you had received some pretty interesting things in the mail recently.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about that?
I ordered the book Combating Cult Mind Control, and then the XW Cult Handbook. I ordered that online, and I started reading those. Yeah.
So that, I tell you, I bought Stephen Hassan's book, Combating Cult Mind Control. I got about halfway through it, but isn't it just so eerie how similar, almost a mirror image of the Watchtower organization it is when you read that book, right?
Right, it is. And I always, thought, too, like when people, bring up cult, I'm still trying to come to terms with that term for, JW, because I'm still, at the beginning stages, so it's kind of hard for me to say that they're a cult. But,
exactly.
I always thought that, cults are like what they portray on TV, just a leader and then everybody just, like a small group of people, in a basement somewhere,
Right.
But to see it on a wide scale like this is like, wow,
Yeah, and the thing about that book, it helps us to realize that there's so many cults out there. I mean, there's martial arts cults, there's business cults, there's religious cults, there's all kind of cults. It's not just, the Waco, Texas, Jim Jones thing,
Right.
And one of the things that really struck me and blew me away in Stephen Hassan's book, that's when I was first starting to wake up, the terminology, about people being spiritual and other people not being spiritual, about demon possessions and, all the type of terminologies and things that we have, they almost have it almost word for word, the whole Armageddon thing, a special group of people that are going to take over the planet after Armageddon, like the faithful slaves. So You're gonna really enjoy those books, and I could relate and empathize with you because it wasn't. I've been out since July. It wasn't until very, very recently, like a few weeks ago, that when they put Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and Scientology all in the same sentence as being a cult, that I feel really comfortable saying, yep, they're just the same. There's no difference. Because, you tend to feel that we're just so different and so unique, and in a lot of ways we are. But isn't it something that, it's really, we really are under a lot of different types of mind control when we're affected by these cults. So it was around 5 years old that your mom got baptized, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how was it, growing up, going to school, being in elementary school, junior high school, middle school, high school? How was your experience growing up? Just talk about that. Anything in particular you'd like to highlight or comes to your mind?
I always felt like, I was different or stood out. I had a really, I wouldn't say I had a bad, aside from being, JW and stuff, I had a pretty good childhood. I can't complain about that. But I just always knew that in school I had, like, a lot of anxiety and stuff. And, I couldn't hang out with anybody. People would ask me, if I wanted to come hang out or, do stuff with them. And I told them I couldn't because, I'm not, I couldn't really basically tell them the truth about who I was. I never really told anybody at school that I was a witness, and therefore if I would see them out, when I was out in service, I'd get nervous. I'd start having, panic attacks and stuff like that. So there's still people to this day that don't know, but I really had a hard time with it growing up. So I homeschooled for my 11th. My mom took me out of public school. I went from public school from preschool all the way to 10th grade to my sophomore year. And so I, basically knew everybody in public school. And then my mom took me out because I was starting to, rebel and stuff. And so she took me out and homeschooled me for my last 2 years of high school. And that really messed me up after that.
Wow. So
yeah.
They just totally took you away from your element, all your connections you had at school and everything, and just put you in homeschool. Trying to shelter you from that, right?
Yeah, and that made things even worse. Because
how was that homeschool like? Did they make you? I remember my mom tried to put me in that homeschool for a couple of times, but it didn't work out. I never did any of the assignments. I know that there was all these JW-owned private schools that you could go. That was like correspondence back in my day. I don't know, how did you go about doing it?
We didn't go through a JW thing. It was some other accredited school that we went through. They sent the books to you, and then, my mom, she made a schedule of what assignments that were needed to be done and what, when they were due and everything, and then we'd send all the paperwork, in, and she would talk with the teachers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh wow! Did they make you go through all the publications and stuff? Like that was your schooling?
Yeah, but she even
Oh, God, you poor thing.
Yeah, she even, the 3 credit community school, we had to study for that, on a certain day. She had, everything set out. Bible study, Watchtower was on, we went to her brother's house on Saturday to study the Watchtower. Yeah. It was all scheduled.
Now, let me ask you this. You had mentioned about, being out in service and the anxiety that caused you. I remember, man. I remember during the meeting for service, I'd be playing, I was raised in Miami, and my territory was divided into, a northeast and northwest area. Mm-hmm. And I was in, North Miami, so I was in the northwest area. Uh-huh. And I would always beg that area in the territory where it was northwest, they were always going to be in the same zone where all my school friends were. Uh-huh. So I'd be begging and begging in my mind, just praying, please don't, because I just did not want to run into any of my friends out in the ministry. And I was so happy whenever they were northeast area. And then when they would say northwest area, I would try to find a way to con somebody else to let me go in their car group or something so I could be away so I wouldn't run into any of my friends. And, you just made me realize something. I don't think about it so much. That was just so much anxiety for a kid to have because there's bullying and teasing and
Right.
the embarrassment that goes on, and it happened. It
Right.
happened. Especially
Right.
because I was so bad in school, and you knock on the door, and your friends answer the door, and
Right.
it's nerve-wracking. Did you go through that?
Yes, I did. It was because it was at school. I felt it's kind of weird, but I guess I felt more comfortable. I felt more like myself, so I did a lot more stuff. And then compared to at home, I had to be the good, JW or in the congregation because I was one of the older ones. My younger sisters there was more people, kids that were my sister's age. So, all the younger ones looked up to the older ones. So you had that good girl JW side and then the, want to hang out with your friends at school side. So, you act different at school. And then when you go out and see them when you're out in service, it's like, I really don't want to see anybody that I know. And, we'd knock on doors and stuff, and I would have the person that was with me do their presentation. I'd be too scared to do presentations. I would, do it once in a while, but I would be too scared to, say anything to anybody.
They say that, it's so great, that the JW kids, they're able to go out and be in a ministry and that they love it and all that kind of stuff. And there were times that I did love it, but did you ever enjoy it? Did you ever enjoy it as a small kid? I'm sure there was times you did maybe as an adult, but as a young child, was there anything enjoyable about being out in ministry?
I'm trying to remember that far back. I don't think so. I think the only time I really enjoyed it is when we did telephone witnessing. I didn't have to see be face to face with anybody. So yeah.
So how was it in your congregation? You said you were like one of the older kids. So did you get a lot of association in the congregation and stuff like that?
Yeah, there was most of the congregation. Most of the congregation that I grew up with was mostly military families, so we had that in common. The military wives. Yeah, it was mostly military wives that learned the quote unquote truth and joined the organization, and then stuff like that. So it's mostly military families, so we had all that in common, and there was mostly kids my age that was there. But yeah, so the younger ones, like my sisters and stuff, always looked up to us. So it was kind of hard to, do.
Okay, so there was pressure on always being the example, I would imagine, huh?
Yeah, being the example, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, especially when we had meeting parts, or there was a couple of times where, we had parts at the assembly and stuff, and yeah.
So you were on an assembly part?
A couple of times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you really had a standard to keep up, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh boy. So it sounds like a pretty normal routine, way of life growing up as a JW. Here we are, we're using the same, lingo, the same jargon. Sounds like, pretty similar to a lot of things I experienced growing up. So it wasn't all bad, right?
No, it was. I mean, I've had really good experiences growing up, but just realizing, there was a lot of certain anxieties in some things, and just, talking to other people from different groups and hearing their stories, it's like, oh, I felt the same way, Right.
So this is where I would ask you, what was it that really started affecting you negatively, if anything, growing up? Was there anything, or did it happen later on in life? What was it that made you kind of start, having second thoughts about the organization?
It wasn't until recently, actually.
Really? Okay.
I'm trying to think.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Sorry. There was a couple of points, when I was in that kind of stuck with me, because there was a couple of friends that I had that were really good friends. And then, the whole organization talks about, everybody, dying at Armageddon and things like that. And I'm like, well, why would, those other good people besides JWs, why would God kill them just for just for a whole group of people? And that kind of, like, stuck with me for a while. But, like, it just now recently there's other things that have clicked with me, too.
Okay. So you say just recently. So let me ask you this. Before you get into some of those things that have clicked for you, how long have you not been a Jehovah's Witness?
I got disfellowshipped. It'll be 10 years in July.
So it's been 10 years, but you're finally feeling like you're breaking free only recently, huh?
Yes, like in the past few months since I've joined the groups and stuff, my anxiety has, like, I went to go see a therapist and stuff, and even she doesn't even know my JW background because I really hadn't had the courage to tell her because I'm still afraid, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
right.
She's even seen a difference in my anxiety since I first seen her.
Mm. So the groups have helped you. The online groups have definitely helped.
Yes, definitely.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you got connected to the XJW community. So, you know, anything you would like to elaborate on growing up that caused you to just want to leave the organization, or what was it that really made it so that you couldn't really deal with it anymore?
Well, I know when my parents got divorced, I was like 14, and that kind of that's when I started the whole rebelling thing because, you know, we couldn't go to concerts and stuff like that. And I would ask my mom if I could go to a concert with another fellow JW, but she wouldn't let me. And I was mad about that. And, you know, she wouldn't let me do things that a teenager is supposed to do, you know, like a rite of passage type thing. And so I started, you know, rebelling against her. She sent me to my dad, and then that didn't work out. And so I got back with my mom, and, you know, she was strict about the whole JW thing. And I just, when I turned 16, was like, well, I just kind of got baptized because everybody else was getting baptized. My, you know, friends in the congregation, they were getting baptized, and I didn't want to feel left out because I really felt left out majority of my life. And so it was I kind of got baptized for the wrong reasons, but I did, and I was doing good for a while. And then my mom, after I graduated high school, I was 17 when I graduated, and I wanted to go to college. And I went to go visit my dad's side of the family on the East Coast, and we went to colleges and stuff like that, and I was really excited about it. And I came home and I told my mom, and, you know, she gave me that whole speech, well, why would you want to do that in this system of things, you know, that whole speech that JW parents give you. And so that just kind of, like, turned me off for a while. And then I just couldn't take it no more, and I left home when I was 20, and that's when everything started. So 10 years ago.
Okay, so you left home at 20 and just kind of just did your own thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just living a normal adult life, and I'm sure that didn't sit well with the congregation of the elders, and they led you to the disfellowshipping, right?
Right, yeah. They called me and talked to me and stuff like that, and then at the time I was kind of like in a really bad relationship, and I wanted to leave, and I thought it was going to be, you know, like my way out. So I told the brothers that I would meet with them, because they were like, well, if you don't meet with us by this date, then we're going to have to disfellowship you. And I was like, well, I'll be there.
They were going to disfellowship you just for not meeting with them? They didn't even know any details of what you were doing or anything like that?
Yeah, well, my mom had told me that I was living with someone, and they had called and asked. Yeah, they had called and asked me questions. I can't remember what questions they asked me, and they was like, "Well, if you don't get back with it, let's set up a meeting, and if you don't show up, then we're gonna have to disfellowship you. You know, that's just a sign that you're not being, repentant or whatever." And at the time with my relationship, my boyfriend at the time was very, I can't think of the word, but he wouldn't let me go.
Very possessive?
Possessive. So I missed the judicial meeting, and so they disfellowshipped me the following week.
Wow. So they disfellowshipped you without even trying to see you or trying to really find out your circumstances, if you were okay or if you were in any danger or anything like that?
No. And I was trying to make it I was trying to, cry for help, over the phone, but I guess, nobody came to see me. None of the elders came to see if I was okay, and my mom didn't come or nothing.
So it's like all they really care about is if you're following their rules or the rules of the organization, right. not if you're in trouble and suicidal or pain emotionally or what's causing you to, act out like that. All they wanted to know is if you don't come to this meeting, we're going to basically murder you spiritually and disfellowship you. Right. Wow. So how was it? How was that? How did you find out that you were disfellowshipped?
My mom called me after the meeting and told me, and she said that was a very hard announcement for her to hear and stuff like that. And I can't remember the whole conversation, but I remember her calling me afterwards and telling me that they announced it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was her reaction to it? I know she said she was really hard. I mean, did she tell you she was going to continue to speak with you, or was your relationship strained by that? Did she follow it?
Yeah,
Did she follow it to the T, or how did that go?
No, our relationship has been strained for the past 10 years. We only talk to each other, maybe like here and there, once in a blue moon. I've maybe talked to my mom maybe like 5 times in the last 10 years.
5 times in 10 years?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. In these 5 conversations, if you were to add up all the time that you spent talking to your mom, how much time do you think that would end up to be?
Maybe a couple hours.
Wow. Hold on a second.
Give or take.
Wow. So basically, you don't have a relationship with your mother at all, really?
No, not at all. Even since my sister and her still have a relationship, my sister that lives with me, she'll show up and I'll go outside. She'll be in her car. She won't come in my house. She'll go sit in her car and I'll go outside or whatever and get something out of my car. She won't say hi or nothing. She just looks the other way.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Now that you're really awakening, mm-hmm. when you look back at it, at least with me, at least when I would see my cousins that were disfellowshipped or whatever, and I would feel so bad and just be like, well, I know they have good hearts and they're going to come back, and I'd want them to come back. And then they used to tell us we can't pray for the disfellowship. We're not even supposed to pray for the disfellowship ones.
Right.
But I remember, it just seemed like it did make kind of sense a little bit. But now that I'm awakened, mm-hmm. looking back, it just seems so crazy mm-hmm. for religion to do that. For any religion, any group to just tear that familial bond, that connection with people. I mean, looking back at it now, all those years of your mother, the person that gave you life, shunning you, how do you feel about it? Did your perception of it change, or did you always think it was all a bunch of nonsense?
It's changed a little bit, but I always thought, it was devastating. I mean, it devastates me, to this day, even when I've seen, like, some of my friends get disfellowship and stuff. I mean, I I'm like, I knew these people for most of my life, so why should I, stop talking to them because of something, little that they did? I mean, there's stuff that are common that people do, considered common out in the world that people do, but people in the organization get disfellowship for, and so now that I've been out and, I've been going to, other churches and stuff, it's like, that's the most, when somebody does something, that's the time when, they need the people the most, Like, when I got to fellowship, right. That's when I needed them the most. But no, I was cast away,
So they throw people away. I call it a throw people away society.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were disfellowshipped and you were in an abusive relationship, totally on your own, no support from your family, huh?
Yeah, no support from nobody. I've been on my own for the past 10 years, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So since you were 20, since what, 18, 19?
Since I was 20.
Since 20?
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm hoping you're not in that abusive relationship anymore, right?
No.
Okay, well, thank God, good for you.
I resolved that relationship 5 years later. So.
Good for you. Proud of you for that. So wow. So you've been so during those 10 years you were living as a disfellowship person. Did you feel like this was just that you were disfellowship, that you needed to repent and try to come back into the organization the whole time? How long was it that you felt that way? Because there's a lot of people that are out there that are disfellowship. Some that are listening now that struggle with feelings of guilt and struggle with feelings of not being worthy. Did you go through that at all?
Oh, yes, definitely, especially at the beginning. Not so much now. I mean, there are some times where I have my moments and I get depressed about it and stuff like that. But at the beginning, yes, a lot of times. When I got a couple of months after I got disfellowship, I found out I was pregnant with my oldest son. And, being in that type of relationship, I didn't want to have my kid around it. So I, started going back. I moved back home and I started, going back to the meetings and stuff like that and everything and trying to get back because that's all I've ever known, ever since I was 5. I didn't know anything else. And so I didn't want to be, alone with a new baby either. I was scared. And so before I had my son, I talked to my mom and stuff like that and told her I wanted to come back and everything. And I needed the support of, my real friends, I thought. And so when I started going back to the meetings and stuff like that, I went back for like a year or so. And I turned my letter in, and the elders said that I wasn't repentant enough. That I needed to, wait a little bit longer.
And so you were going to meetings for 2 years, and they said that you weren't repentant?
For about a year or so.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And I had my son at this point, and the friends, were helping me, from a distance, like with my, son. They would take him, during the meetings and hold him and stuff like that, and being somewhat supportive. And then, when I turned my letter in and the brother said I wasn't repentant enough, it kind of made me, depressed because I was like, oh, I'm doing everything that I, can. And at the time, his dad was, trying to win me back and say, he doesn't want his son to live without a father and this and that. And those feelings of not being wanted in the organization led me to going back with his dad. And so I did that, and then after, a few months or so, I, started going back to the meetings and stuff. So I kind of did that back and forth thing because they put me on a guilt trip,
right.
So I did that going back and forth. But I mean, there's still moments today where, I feel like I should just go back so I could be with my family and then just, kind of fade out. My sister, she's getting married, and I feel like I missed out on a lot in the last 10 years. But then I think to myself, you don't want to put yourself in that situation again.
So when you say put yourself in the situation, you mean of that whole process of going back to the meetings and during all those meetings for hours and then begging the brothers to let you come back and being rejected again and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. And even I can just drive past a Kingdom Hall and I get anxiety.
So seeing, I drove by a Kingdom Hall the other day. I was so angry. I felt like ramming my car right through it. Yeah. My dad lives right down the street from a Kingdom Hall. So when I go to his house, I try to take a different route. But every time I pass it, I get anxiety, and I don't think I could put my kids through that. What I went through, growing up, not being able to, do stuff that kids or teenagers are supposed to do, Right. So you've been away from the organization almost 10 years. So tell me what happened to where you started feeling like I'm starting to be actually free. When did that when did that start happening?
It started after I joined the group and started talking to people, and because I always felt alone growing up. I've been, suicidal and things like that, and been on meds for every little, been diagnosed for things ever since I was 14. And then I started going to a therapist and then going into the groups and talking to people that felt the same way I did. And I'm like, well,
I'm sorry, we had a little feedback. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's like I'm not crazy. It's just the organization, made me that way, And I just felt, I don't know, at that moment I just felt when I started talking to people and noticing how they felt the same way I did, it's like, well, I'm not alone, And
right.
I just, little by little, I had conversations with individuals, and it's just kind of like, wow. It was like really eye-opening.
Mm-hmm. So you say you suffer from, you had to go see a therapist and everything. So you've had to struggle with depression and things like that from the age of 14, you say?
Yes. I was first diagnosed with bipolar depression and borderline personality disorder, and things like borderline schizophrenic, all of that.
So you got all these serious disorders, and none of this was taken into consideration when they disfellowshipped you, right? They knew you had all these things, right?
Well, no. Well, I assume I was, I was diagnosed at 14, but I don't think they took that into consideration when they disfellowshipped me, because we really didn't discuss it. But now that I'm older and I've been awakened to everything, it's like I was diagnosed for the wrong reasons. I don't, have a split personality. It was just
you were forced to live a double life because you were in this cult, but you're trying to function in normal society, so you had to put
right.
two faces on.
Right. And so I think I was talking to my therapist and stuff like that, and she doesn't believe, I'm both bipolar sometimes, but she doesn't believe that I'm, schizophrenic or have borderline personality or things like that, So I was basically diagnosed because of what I was going through in the organization. It's not because of my mentality, if that makes sense.
Right. Oh, definitely. I just want to tell you, just so you could feel a little bit more support, I'm bipolar 1. Mm-hmm. I suffer from anxiety and depression. I have PTSD, so I have all those disorders, and I can tell you 100% it's from the abuse I've felt and gone through, the physical, emotional, even physical, and some sexual abuse that I've gone through growing up as a JW. So I could totally empathize with what you're saying. One of the hardest things for me was when it was time to get therapy, that fear, that dread of really talking about what's really bothering you. I went to therapy for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I never brought up the JW stuff.
Right.
And it was hard because many reasons, but part of it was, if you're not fully awakened yet, and you still have this nagging feeling like, well, maybe this is the truth, maybe I'm hurting Jehovah, I'm sinning against the Holy Spirit. When you still believe all those things, when the watchtower rents space in your head, it's this dread of, I better not say anything because you don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah. Did you go through any of that?
Exactly, yes. And even when I was started going to therapy when I was 14, I didn't mention that side. I was more general, like what was going on at home and stuff like that. I mostly talked about my parents' divorce, how was it affecting me more so than the JW thing.
Yep, I did the same thing. You talk in generalities and you beat around the bush. But a lot of times they could kind of know that there's something else behind there. Have you been able? You still taking therapy now at all?
Yes, I am.
So have you been able to talk about the JW stuff yet or no?
No, not yet. I talk in general, but conversations come up because I tell her about my mom and stuff like that, and she's like, all I say is that I don't have a good relationship with my mom, And, people ask me, well, why don't you talk to your mom? And I'm like, oh, because of just religious differences. That's what I say. But my therapist, she's always trying to, get me open up. I mostly talk about my dad. And so she's been trying to get me to open up about my mom. And it's making me very nervous and panicky about that, because she's like, well, do you think your mom will want to sit in on one of your sessions? And I'm like,
they have no idea.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to work, because even if she did, it's not going to change anything. She's still going to be in the organization and not talk to me. So, yeah, so it's kind of hard when she gets that subject about, oh, have you talked to your mom lately? Things like that. How's your relationship with your mom going? It's like it's still the same. I haven't talked to her since last year.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, I'm really glad you're on the path that you're on. And I know how hard it is. And I know how hard it is to open up to the therapy. And that's why I'm really proud of you that you're opening up to us, because we're your brothers and sisters, and we've gone through a lot of the things, many of that I've called and are listening that are going through what you're going through. As a matter of fact, there's even people that call into this program that have been calling in for years and never spoken up at all, but they still call in. Or they're on the video suite. So you're helping a lot of people now by sharing what you're sharing. Just one piece of just something I want to share with you. When I was going through a lot of these things, and I was where you're at, and again, we both, I've left in July. You're just recently finally starting to wake up, because you could be this fellowship for years, and the watch hour they're still in your mind, and you're still being tormented by them.
Right.
But one of the things that helped me, and I can encourage you to continue to do so, is I always say information. The more research you do about the society, about their history, about what they're doing, about what they're investing in, where the money's going, all these things, not only will it build up the anger in you and the so-called righteous indignation against this organization, like when you learn about all the suicides and stuff that happen, I mean, you and I, we're very fortunate that we're not a statistic like that we didn't take our own lives, But when you hear about all these things, it really helps you to see that this is not God's organization. Whether you're going to still decide to believe in God or not, that's your decision. I mean, this is a religious-based show for the most part, but we don't really discuss religion on Saturdays. We have separate for that on Sunday. But whether you do still decide you want to keep your relationship with God or not, this is definitely not something that comes from God, tearing people away from their families and stuff. And so when you get all the information and see how evil and wicked this organization is, you feel a lot better and a lot more comfortable about talking about how evil they are and exposing them, and it makes you feel better to, okay, I know I'm not hurting God, I know I'm not hurting anyone by just talking about my experiences and how I've been hurt, and then you will be able to open up to your therapist, and I really hope you get to a place where you can feel comfortable doing that, because you're going to feel so much better.
Yeah, and I'm getting there. I used to defend them a lot at the beginning, because somebody would say something negative about the witnesses, and I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. I grew up as one, but now it's like it's a totally different story. It's like, no, don't study with them. Don't be associated with them. It's just heartache in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
It's love bombing in the beginning, though, isn't it? They like to love bomb. I'm sure you've heard that term.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things or that you found out about, that you learned about, that helped woke you up specifically?
That helped me awaken?
Yeah, like for instance, for me, all the history of Charles Russell and the Freemasonry and the pyramids and all that stuff, that always kind of bothered me. And then the United Nations connections they have, I don't know if you've heard anything about that. And then, once I started hearing about their military investments, that's when I was totally done. So I don't know, have you researched any of that stuff at all?
No, I mean, I've seen it online, but I haven't really researched it. I mean, I've heard, even when I was in, I heard about it, but it was, taboo, and you couldn't talk about it, or it was apostate literature. So
right.
I haven't really looked into all of that yet.
So do you still feel fear and dread sometimes in trying to look at some of that material?
Sometimes, but then it's like, I need to, know for myself.
Right.
Look into it myself and, dig deeper and kind of, because when my mom started studying, I don't think she actually, looked the time to, I think I even remember, the brothers and sisters telling her not to, not to look certain things up because, apostate literature would pop up and, stuff was false and things like that. And so I was kind of scared to look into it. I would type in, Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever, and my mom would, say something about it. So I don't think even when she got baptized, I don't even she did the research, the background. I mean, I knew about Russell and things like that, but I never knew about everything else surrounding it.
Well, you're going to find out a lot, and it's going to really open up your eyes. You got those two books. Please read those books.
Yeah.
You've heard, and I know you've heard of Crisis of Conscience, right? From Raven Franz, former governing body member.
Yes. I just recently found that out too. I didn't realize that either, and I was like, I need to read that book.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a suggestion. Well, we're friends on Facebook, and we got a lot of things planned we're going to talk about. But you could listen to his entire book online on YouTube for free.
Okay.
And I tell you, you're going to go through about a whole lot of history in the organization. And by the time you finish that book, you're going to just tell all those fears, all those doubts are going to leave. And then a lot of people, I go back and forth with my anger and desperation and bitterness and stuff sometimes and all that. But I'm at a stage now, and people have told me where you're going to look at this organization and the stuff they're doing, and it's going to be like comedy to you. They're just going to be, it's just they're going to just look so ridiculous, and all this stuff is going to just seem so ridiculous. You'll still miss your family and whatnot, but you're going to be really, appreciative that this was a cult. So I'm really thankful. Thank you so much for sharing your story so far just now, but what I like to do around this time when I'm interviewing, I like to try to see if we could get anybody else that's listening to be brave enough to just kind of chime in, say hello, and kind of show some support or ask any questions. So if anybody's out there that's listening, please let's say hi to Olivia Jade. She was brave enough to come on. She's never heard of the Six Screens before. First time on Cult Free Network. She's brand new awakening. She's been out this fellowship for quite a few years, but she's brand new. She's just coming to terms with awakening about the Watchtower, and she's still struggling with a lot of fear and stuff. So let's show us the support. So if you're on listening in, please press *1 and say hello. Speak up.
Hi, Olivia. It's Winnie.
Hi.
Please press 1 to mute or unmute yourself. 4 or 6 to decrease or increase the conference volume. 7 or 9 to decrease or increase your volume. 0 to hear the current conference count.
Hello?
I'm sorry. Something's going on. Just wait. It's gonna come out. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi,
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Olivia. It's Winnie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So nice. Good. I'm good. It's so nice to hear your voice.
Same here.
How are you, David?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
So this is Winnie, you said?
Yes, I'm in Hawaii.
Oh, Winnie, my friend Winnie from Hawaii. So nice to hear from you.
Yes.
Nice to put a voice next to the face. Aren't you so proud of our friend Olivia here?
I love her. She's a darling.
Yes, she is.
Oh, you're too sweet.
Well, we're going to continue to help Olivia to wake up and get all the information she needs so she can really move on with her life, right?
Exactly. Well, I have a brief little something to tell you guys. I have, I think you know, Olivia, about my mom's situation.
Yeah.
And it seems like most of the JW women have a mom situation. We all seem to have a mom situation. And what I've noticed in my situation now, my mom is, she's the only one in our family who is a JW. So I'm fortunate enough to have my whole family support me because I didn't have to leave my family. My mom was the only JW. So now I'm in a kind of a precarious situation because my mom is on life support and she's not doing very well. And so now I'm kind of in a quandary because I really don't know how to feel about her since she stopped talking to me when I was with Bishop.
Wow.
So now I'm kind of, I kind of don't know how to feel. I know what's going to happen. She most likely will pass away. My brothers are with her, but I kind of don't know how to feel. And
well, Winnie, I think you should feel however you are feeling. You're entitled to have those feelings because, you know, you're probably going through a lot of separation anxiety and you had to deal with a lot of feelings of abandonment. And again, I'm no professional therapist or anything, but I will say, yes, feel exactly the way you feel, but at the same time, you know that that's your mom, and you wouldn't want to feel any kind of regret if she does pass away that you didn't do everything you could have done as a daughter as well. So in the long run, even though it's hard, you know, just so you can have a clean conscience, you know, don't put that burden on yourself. If you feel compelled to do something for your mom or whatever, you know, go ahead and take the higher road. You know, to do things the truly Christian way, I guess you could say, you know, and still honor your parents.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's hurting me the most is that as a young person growing up and even as an adult, I did everything that I was supposed to do with regard to my mom. I did everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything that she wanted me to do. But it was never a reciprocal situation with us. So even before she was a JW, she always only had conditional love for me. So that's why now I'm in a situation where I'm not quite sure how to feel with regard to, you know, if she does pass away. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with that. I've got, you know, I have a really great therapist, and it's really, you know, it's going good for me. And I talk all the time about being a JW because she has other JWs who are patient. So
oh, wow.
She has quite a number of JWs who are patient. So I've been helping her with a lot of the articles that you guys post on your Facebook page. I send them to her so she's awake and aware of what's going on.
Right. So you definitely would definitely recommend to Olivia that she does eventually open up to a therapist about her JW past.
Really, Olivia, you have to tell them because if you don't tell them, they can't help you.
Right.
If we don't tell them, they can't help us. And, you know, we really need to get it out there and get the word out to these therapists and let them know what's going on. Because a lot, like David said, a lot of people are coming out and they don't know where to go and they don't know what to tell these therapists. But if more people opened up, then we could get the help we need.
Yeah, and that's what I'm struggling with. It's just like opening up about everything because I still have that, I guess, some of that JW mentality, you know, not wanting to put the organization in a bad light. But but on the other hand, it's like that's the reason why they're causing me anxiety. I need to be all the way free from it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, well, so thank you so much for chiming in. Now, Winnie, is this the first time you've ever called to this program?
Yes.
Oh, well, we hope that you don't become a stranger and become a regular caller, whether I'm broadcasting on my show or on the 6 screens, because we got to definitely help get the word out because there's a lot of witnesses that call in secretly and that are listening and we're helping people to wake up. So that's part of the activism that we do here.
Exactly. I'm very glad.
Yep. So we'll continue to spread the word. So is there anybody else that wants to say hello to Olivia or Winnie? Please speak up now. Press *1. Or if you're on Call Free Network, you could just speak up. You don't have to say anything.
This is Molly. I'd like to say hello to Olivia.
Hello.
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 Yes,
I can hear you, Molly.
Go ahead,
Hi.
Molly.
Hi, Olivia. This is Molly. I was listening to your experience, and I found it very encouraging, and I can relate to some of it. I'm also fading out of the organization for about a year now, and so I'm not disfellowshipped or anything like that, but just trying to make my break. And so I just wanted to comment on what's been talked about regarding opening up to a therapist. I know that I've seen therapists on and off through my whole, involvement with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I felt the same way, where I didn't feel like I could open up because, like you said, afraid to bring reproach on the organization or a bad light on Jehovah. We would hate to. We were kind of conditioned to make sure that we didn't put any roadblocks into our therapists learning about Jehovah and becoming a witness, I think. But, really what I've learned since then is that was all part of the cult mind control. It really was sacrificing the person for the group. Mm-hmm. Not that the organization cares about the individual. It's more about the group. And so if you think about it, that's not really truly Christian, given that Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to be a Christian organization. They always talk about, if one sheep, wanders away from the flock, how they'll go after that one sheep because they care so much. Well, with the Bible teaching, that is a Bible teaching, and it's true, but it's truly not practiced by the organization. So, there shouldn't be any secrets. If it's not a cult, there shouldn't be any secrets, and you should be able to get well. And so I find it interesting that after 10 years of you making your break away from the organization, you're still battling with that. And it just goes to show how powerful that mind control really is. And so I appreciate that, too. I'm still trying to get over it myself. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
I just wanted to tell you that, I have come to appreciate the XJW community as my new family, as, those that are my support systems. And so I'm glad, again, that you found that as well, because I think it will help your healing and your recovery go along a lot quicker, because that's been my experience for sure.
Yeah, mine also, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was nice talking to you.
Yeah, well, thank you for the encouragement.
Yeah,
thank you
well, thank you, David.
All right. Now, I see Brennan over there. Brennan, I'm cutting a little bit into your time. I apologize for that. Can you hear me, Brennan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. Want to say hi to Olivia?
Hey, Olivia, it's Brennan Joseph.
Hi.
Yeah, it's good to hear that you broke free from Watchtower control and are now living your life the way you want to live it. I've been doing it just recently, from starting in July. So it's an inspiration to hear you talk about your experience, and it gives encouragement to other people who are still struggling with it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm still struggling, but I'm learning. So it's all good. I enjoy my freedom now. So
definitely. Now we're going to enjoy some freedom of our own, aren't we? When it's coming up next year, January 2017, aren't we?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, we're planning a cruise. I told Rick Fearon about it too, and it's really moving along. So we're going to be the Carnival Inspiration, the XJW Cruise 2017. So we really want to drum up as much support for the cruise, get as many XJWs involved to have some fun with us, to be able to really enjoy themselves. Woo! There we go. Okay, I'm sure you guys are tired of all my crazy posts that I keep posting trying to get everybody to go on that cruise. But I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to it because it's nice to talk and it's nice to support, but I'm ready to cut loose and have a good time and get a little tipsy. How about you ladies?
Yes, I am too. It sounds like a fun time. I can't wait.
Definitely, and we'll talk about it more, but we're making the cruise very affordable. It's only going to be about a little over $300 and something for a room, plus about $100 more for the taxes. We've got a whole year and a half, so we'll have all that information posted up in all the Facebook groups. I'll post it up on the Six Screens group as well so that you could make your own arrangements with the travel agent. But that's something we're going to try to have so that all the new ones coming out could just, have some support, hug, and just have a good time and be there for us. And we're trying to make it an annual thing, too. So look out for that. So we're about to go into our next program, Breaking Free with Brennan Joseph. I want to thank Olivia one more time so much for coming in. And I'm going to start another show. We're going to start another show that's for an hour. You're more than welcome to stick around, listen, participate. We hope you can participate. Is there any final things you want to say to anybody, Olivia, that's contemplating doing some of the steps that you did? What's going to help them to give them the strength to follow your example? Anything you might want to share with us before we finish up?
I guess just keep doing the research and keep, going in the groups and listening to everybody's stories because they're basically all the same. Everybody's dealt, things in a different way, but everybody's had that same anxiety and things like that, and just being able to see that is just mind-blowing, and then being able to live your life the way you want it is so freeing. Yep.
Amen to that. And I've been watching your post. I want to wish you a happy birthday. I know you enjoyed your birthday in Las Vegas, so I'm glad you had that. I'm glad you had a good time.